These
A man will
these
fly,
glasses will make
and a
people have
man
to
will
stare into
crawl
their soul.
with sheer face of love, like fly from the wall. It's no secret. I mean, they're not as Bono-esque, but you're probably like
With
glaring them
those
all out, and they
lights.
can see like
Yeah.
everything that's happening.
Looking
Yeah,
through these glasses,
you
you will
might
see
need
back
to.
into your soul.
I don't know, man. You might need to switch class.
Yeah. I'm out.
I know. I
I
thought
brought something
no.
way more
So,
practical.
if you haven't noticed, I've got myself a peanut gallery yet again, and so to Julia Pop as we do our best to get everything figured out, opened, and there we go. So hopefully I've got all my other browsers knocked out. Hopefully Evan doesn't freak out too much. Welcome to all of you that are here in attendance already right off the bat. Welcome to Julia Pop. If you haven't heard, we are talking about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now, I have lots of opinions about the Rock Hall. Lots of people have lots of opinions about the Rock Hall. Um, I understand a lot of the criticisms that have come after it, that have come at it. Of course, you know me, I always have a part of the episode where I have my take on it, and we will absolutely get to that. So we are going to talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because it has all of those things.
Yeah.
And so Inger says, evening! So evening to you as well, Inger. It was
Good
very
evening.
good to see you this weekend, as always. And so we welcome your conversation and your commentary as often as possible. Something else that you're going to find out, I do have a lot of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame stuff. So as you can see, I've got my Long Live Rock, and yes, that says member. That doesn't mean inductee. That means member, and we'll talk about the difference as we go along. And so Linda is listening in. Welcome to you, Linda, and she says, I'm all ears. So I'm glad to hear that, and we will get talking. Like I said, I've got in my peanut gallery, lead singer of 8 Stop 7. Maybe you've heard
Like
of them.
the first inductee into not that.
No, but I actually have a book that has listings of exactly such, and so
We're not on it.
no, sorry, yet,
check, yeah.
yet. So, yeah, and then Crystal already has the first gripe, which a lot of people agree with, that it should just be the Music Hall of Fame. And I think you're not too far off. So, so I have a few different little bon mots and concepts and everything. And so, and Inger says, I love rock and roll. Let's put another dime in the jukebox, baby. I love rock and roll. So come and take your time and dance with me. Yes, I love me some Joan Jett. If you saw earlier, I did post the picture. The cool thing about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is they have these giant, like, floor-to-ceiling murals all over the place. The size of the place is so much fun. And of course, there's a huge picture of Joan Jett when I came around the corner. I'm like, yeah, take a picture. And I'm like going like this to the picture because she's Saint Joan to me. She
never
is
been to the Rock
person
Hall.
that I have always looked forward to. And I have been, I believe the count is 3 times. I don't think there was a 4th in the middle there, but yes. So I went in 2002 by myself. I went in 2003 with Brother Mikey. I went in 2017 as a family vacation, and that was Stephen, me, Caitlin, Lane, Jillian, and Crystal. So
cool.
The 6 of us. And we all took the Navigator, so we all packed in and took a road trip. We've got all the road trip adventure stories, of course, but we're focusing on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Inger agrees with me. She also loves Joan Jett. Big fan. So, but we are here to talk about the Rock Hall itself. So we're going to give you a little bit of the history, who's in, who's out, what it takes to get in, get out, all of those things. So the origin goes back to 1983. A fellow by the name of Amit Ertegun. He was the chairman, or he was the main guy in Atlantic Records. So he was a record executive. So he has been very highly recognized by the Grammy people, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame people, all kinds of people. And so he signed Aretha Franklin. He signed Linda Likes the Glasses, Evan.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
And so he,
It's just a mood.
Oh, you know, when you're feeling it, that's exactly what you should do. And so Amit gathered a few other people together and said, I want to start this Rock Hall Foundation. Now, there is some fundraising and 501c3 that does go for that. Again, there's some criticism on that if they're not doing enough. Sometimes people feel that they're not. But they started at April 20th, 1983. They established the foundation. And what they wanted to do was recognize talent and achievement in the rock and roll milieu. So with that,
Kinda
and
like
basically
there's the Oscars and then
exactly,
right.
But it's a little different. The voting process for this is a little different because with Grammys and Oscars, you get ballots sent out if you are an actor. If you are in, the actors, what like Screen Actors Guild is very much like that. But the Grammy one, or Grammy, involves singers and songwriters, musicians, people like that. So when you are part of that community, you get a ballot. I'm kind of surprised you didn't get a ballot. Did you ever get a Grammy ballot in your life?
Yes.
There you go. Proof positive.
I just remembered. Yeah, I got one.
So that's how it works
I was like,
with those.
wow.
That is not how this works.
It's a Grammy ballot.
Yeah, and that is not how this one works, because it is a committee. And for a very long time, there was really no input from the fans until later. And we'll talk about that particular detail once we get into who gets in and how you get in. So basically, it was a group of about 6 to 8 on the committee, mostly record execs, lawyers, and Jan Wenner of Rolling Stone. Jan Wenner is the main editor-in-chief / owner of Rolling Stone magazine.
Okay.
So he's the guy in charge.
I'm
Basically,
following.
if you see somebody on that cover, it's because Jan Wenner said yes. So these were some pretty powerful people, but they still wanted to, establish something, a place, and they wanted it to be a place. It took them 12 years before they even built the building. So they finally built the building in 1995. Had a great grand opening. They did they did where you dig the shovel at the very beginning. They had the ribbon cutting at the end. I think Billy Joel and Pete Townsend were there for the digging. Who was it? Yoko Ono was there for cutting it, because one of the earliest things that they did was a John Lennon exhibit, and so she was there for that. So yeah, and basically in 1986, so 3 years after founding it, the inductions began, and it started with the very first inductees, like a who's who of kind of who started it all, really. The big guys: Chuck Berry, James Brown, Ray Charles, Sam Cooke, Fats Domino, the Everly Brothers, Buddy Holly, Jerry Lee Lewis, Little Richard, Elvis Presley, and then in the non-performer category, we have Sam Phillips, the guy who owned Sun Studios. Jimmy Yancey, I don't know very much about. Robert Johnson was considered a early influence, was his, because he's the one at the Crossroads, Soul to Soul to the Devil to play guitar, 27 Club. He's very iconic. So
they recognized him at that?
They did recognize him that first year. And then Jimmy Rogers was another early influencer. And then John Hammond, creator of the Hammond organ. And so since then, they've recognized Leo Fender. They've recognized Les Paul. People who made the instruments would also go in to those categories as well. And of course, Les Paul made the instruments and played the instruments, so he went in both ways.
I mean, do they have songwriters in there too?
They do.
Yeah.
They do. And so initially, the way the different things that you could get in, the divisions were early influence, non-performer, performer, and those were kind of
non-performer hits
the
and writers behind the scenes.
Over time,
genius.
over time they morphed that a little bit, and so what they ended up doing is they called early influence, they called it musical influence. That way, somebody that didn't make it big, like Jeff Buckley, would be possibly up for musical
at
influence.
the very least, please, God.
Because but think about that.
Yeah.
He's a perfect example.
Makes
he
sense.
had one studio album that he produced. He had a live EP. He had a posthumous. They just kind of put it together. They didn't even call it My Sweetheart the Drunk. They called it Sketches for My Sweetheart the Drunk. So even in that, people loved what he did, and he influenced so many of the singer-songwriters that came after, so many of the singers, guitar players, everybody that came after, and people owe him a debt.
If he didn't influence you when he was around, then you were
right,
blind.
and that's the thing. He's not the only one. So as passionate as we feel about him, there are others that other people feel very passionately about. Now, did anybody notice that we're missing women in that big time? Like Aretha Franklin didn't go in until the following year. Big Mama Thornton, who originally did Hound Dog and had a fantastic, vibe about her. She was gritty. She was awesome. She didn't get in until about a year or two ago. It was a couple of years ago. And so you're going to notice there's a very lacking amount of women. So there are some in there, thank goodness, Joan Jett being one of them. Pat Benatar going in with her husband, Neil Giraldo. So we do have them there, just making sure that we recognize those early influences that maybe didn't get enough of a fair shake.
Yeah.
So, like I said, in '86, the inductions begin, and then the induction ceremonies would begin as well. Finally, they dedicated the building September 1st, 1995, so they did it over a holiday weekend, the Labor Day weekend. And the cool thing about that is, and I'm just going to be jumping all
I
around
remember
today,
hearing
is what I
about
think.
that in 1985.
So basically in 1995,
95.
I was a broke college student
Or was
living
it in
in
85
Nebraska.
it was
95. 90, it was built in 95.
Okay.
So
So
thought
definitely
about it
heard
in
of that.
83. Oh yeah, thought about it in 83. Started inducting people in 86. Didn't have a building to put it in until 1995. And part of what they did was they did a money-making campaign. And what they did, and like I said, I was a broke college student in Nebraska. So since I was on Rolling Stone's mailing list, Clive agrees with me on Joan Jett and Patty, and said I was just thinking those same names that I had mentioned as well. So I got this in the mail at my little tiny house in Nebraska. And what it was an offer to join and to be a member of what they called the Backstage Pass Club. You could be a charter member is what it was called, and the offer was, and I again was broke, so for $20 I sent $20 in, and I was able to get an official, so this was the temporary pass. Here's my actual legitimate, I still saved it to this very day. This is my card, and it's like embossed and everything, right? And it lists me as, hang on if I can get it in there and not like break it out.
You gotta go this way.
I know. Hang on. All right,
we're
messing
in
with
reverse.
the light. We are.
Oh.
So that's listing me as a charter member. Sorry, there the lights are back. And so it lists me as a charter member. And when you did that, to really sweeten the pot for me, you have a permanent listing. And so even though I paid the $20, and then the next year when I was supposed to re-up, I did not re-up. And of course, I kept like all the little brochures and stuff. I was still listed. So I didn't even get to visit. I sent my money to them, and I got a t-shirt, and I got this card. And I sent all my stuff to them and didn't even get to go see it because, again, I was too broke to take that big, giant road trip. But I ended up permanently being on the list. So when I finally did go in 2002 was the first time I went. There was this almost like, it looked like an arcade game, and you can click in and my name was there. And you can still do that. You could still find my name. Now it was my old name, Julie Drake, I was going by at that time. So that was my first married name. But here's what's left of the t-shirt, the one of a kind, the house that rock built. Now here's what's funny about it. It's a half shirt now because it was falling apart. But here's the other thing. Like, look at how rat-a-tat
Awesome.
rips. Like, I'm sure it'll look great with a tank top under it, right? But I couldn't get rid of it because it says Charter Member 1995. It's a big deal.
They're
And
like
so
shredding, but
I thought about chopping it up and turning it into some sort of like a t-shirt quilt, but I think it'll look cool. Like I'll wear it with a tank top. We'll have some fun with it. And so so that's the stuff that I got, and I was just, kind of excited about it. So the location, people oftentimes ask, why Cleveland? And they really went through a lot of discussions as far as that. They considered other places like Philadelphia. That's where Bill Haley of Bill Haley and the Comets originated. That's where American Bandstand originated, where everybody would get their rock and roll music from across the country. Also, they thought about Memphis because of Sun Studios and Elvis and Stax Records that was there. They thought about Detroit because of Motown, because of other groups like Iggy Pop and the Stooges, Alice Cooper, Bob Seger. So many of them came from Detroit. And they even thought about Cincinnati, which seemed like a kind of way out one for King Records. Of course, New York with CBGB and about a billion other places, Electric Ladyland Studios, all of that. But finally, they settled on Ohio, and Ohio really courted the executives. They're like, we want you here. We need something that is going to bring in tourist dollars. And what else you go see in Cleveland? Exactly. There's crickets chirping. There's really not much.
I thought of that Wayne's World thing where, like, hi, we're in Delaware. Same, like.
Yeah, because we're in Delaware. Yeah, and no apologies to Cleveland. I know there's really great stuff to do there because I've gone like 3 times and I go there. I love it.
Is it near
there's
the
other stuff.
amusement park, the Sandusky place?
No, it's a little further down the road. So it is the Football Hall of Fame is in Canton, Ohio. You could do like day trips all around Ohio and really find some fun stuff. But it's right along the Erie, or not Erie Canal, Lake Erie. So it's right along Lake Erie. It's really beautiful. There's a lot of really great stuff. They're in the process of gentrifying downtown. It was a little scary when we were driving to it, trying to find our hotel, and I kept going to West Ninth instead of East Ninth, and it was very tense, but we lived through it, didn't we, Crystal? So, but yes, so the Hall of Fame, Football Hall of Fame is in Canton. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is in Cleveland, and it is right next to the a very large arena over there. And I think that's where the football is played.
Okay.
The
So
Cleveland
they
Browns
wanted
play.
like an add-on to the
Yeah, so
complex
it's an
and-
area. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's definitely a whole entire area. Very cool. And like I said, we had a lot of fun with getting there, going there, everything that went with it. So they ended up choosing Cleveland. They put Am I reading that right? Yes, they did. They put 65 million into the infrastructure and everything, so that we had to do that. Yeah, and we were trying to find our hotel, and poor Jillian had to go to the bathroom so bad. She was hanging on for dear life. So God bless all of you for making it through that particular group. So then the excuse they used, or the reasoning, that they used, was Alan Freed, one of the best known DJs in that area and throughout the country eventually. He was known as Moondoggy. And so Moondog had his coronation ball where he was crowned the Moondog, the king of rock and roll, allegedly. And so while the phrase rock and roll wasn't necessarily coined with Alan Freed used it to describe the music that he was playing. So he was the one that was kind of the convergence of, because there are songs that say rock and roll in them from the 1930s, from even before. Old Irish poems that talking about rocking and rolling down the hill and that kind of thing. And it had a very different meaning. Of course, rocking and rolling also had a bit of a naughty connotation for, when a couple of people get together and want to do a little something, they rock and roll.
That at all, Julie.
No, not at all. Not at all. So that was part of it too. And so then once they finally got the building built, they wanted to make it look really cool, really amazing. And the section of it that has the actual Hall of Fame, so it's the Hall of Fame and museum, they made it look like a record player with a stack of records like ready to drop. So it's a very cool looking thing. Feel free to go look that up because the pictures are fantastic. Anytime you do, like, photo ops everywhere at the Rock Hall are amazing. So who's in? I've got a fancy paragraph I'm going to tell you guys, and this is what one of the executives said. So he clearly, curated this particular paragraph to tell you what gets into the Rock Hall. To be eligible for an induction, hang on, let me get all fancy here. There we go. Because, if I'm going to be reading like this, here's what we're doing. I'm like a librarian now. To be eligible for induction as an artist, as a performer, composer, or musician into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the artist must have released a record in the generally accepted sense of that phrase. So that could be an album or single or cassette, whatever. At least 25 years prior to the year of induction, and have demonstrated unquestionable musical excellence. We shall consider factors such as an artist's musical influence on other artists, length and depth of career, and the body of work, innovation and superiority in style and technique, but musical excellence shall be the essential qualification for induction. Now, we did have the non-musician category, and that was kind of why they included that, because they wanted people like executives like Ahmet Erdogan to end up going in there, even though he didn't encourage getting himself in there. Other people still voted him in. So, nomination. So what happens is the committee, however, I think at this point the committee is up to about 30 odd people. Only 9 of them are women. That's what I've heard. And so the nominations, they are the ones that get the nominations out. And then from there you get to vote. So the performance ballots, and this is not for the non-performer categories or any of the others. This is specifically for the performers that are ones that are under the performance category. 1,000 ballots are sent out to experts. What those experts are and who they are, some people have spoken up and said, yes, I'm one of those people. And a lot of times it's record execs, that kind of thing. And so, but it's a bit mysterious. A lot of people talk about there's not a lot of transparency in the voting process and everything. And so it seems to become very subjective is a great term for it. So, and then over the years, they heard people complaining. So eventually they did what's called a fan vote. Now, right now, the nominees just recently got announced. There is a fan vote. If you go to rockhall.com, that's how easy it is to get to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame website, rockhall.com. musichall.com, you'll see that there's a leaderboard. And right now, I checked earlier today, gosh, who was, I can't remember now. And of course, I was like, oh, sure, it'll be easy. I'll remember this just fine. I can't remember. Oh, New Edition is at the top of the leaderboard.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so because clearly their fans are excited about that. Yes. And so the interesting part about the fan vote is that the fan vote is one ballot. So you have 1,000th of a chance if your people win, if they get in. But the thing is, like I said, those nominations are also the same ones that those 1,000 people are voting for as well. There have been many people that have been on the ballot.
So they send out only 1,000 to the
1,000
fan ones too?
1,000 expert ballots.
Okay.
And then the fans get to vote online, and that fan vote equals one ballot.
Got it.
Yeah, so the fans have 1,000th of a say.
Got it.
And hopefully that will get somewhere. I don't know.
So the fans are the 1%ers.
Oh my God, they are. Yeah, they kind of are. So, and that's the basic criteria. They are 25 after the first record release. They are nominated by the committee, and then they are voted on by this magical 1,000 that we don't always quite know who the heck they are. And so I already mentioned our first conductees. Now, what the divisions are now are called as follows: musical influence. So oftentimes that's the early influence people. So that's like Robert Johnson, Big Mama Thornton, people like that. And now that's called musical influence, so that somebody could come along like, I don't know, Elliott Smith, and everybody's like, he didn't sell a ton of records, he had a short output, but people recognize him. So that's how you get Jeff Buckley in. That's how you get.
At this point, he's probably sold a lot of records.
He has, and he is on the nominees list.
Yeah.
So it's worth thinking about. He's low on the list, unfortunately, but that doesn't mean that all of those magical 1,000 people might not vote him in this year. They might very well. Yeah. Then the other one is called the Ahmet Ertegun Award. I mentioned him earlier as the Atlantic Cheer. He's been gone for quite a few years, God rest him. And now the non-performer category is called that. So like big record execs like Jimmy Iovine and people like that. People that owned the Winterland Ballroom. People like that. Bill... He has a last name, and I feel bad that I can't remember it. It'll pop into my brain. But yeah, so like all of these different people over the years that were managers, that were designers, whatever it was that they were, got to get in as well.
Yeah, I mean, any of them that survived like longer than 5 years in that industry should have gotten
exactly. And so people that have long, long storied careers, that's part of it. And then of course there's
stories.
Now, originally people were griping because, for example, oh my gosh, Bruce Springsteen ended up going in by himself. It was not Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. And the E Street Band wasn't happy. And Bruce really thought about, what do I do here? And he's like, you know what? I'm in. I'm going to fight to get this to happen. So they put the E Street Band in later. Mm-hmm. People started to gripe about it more. So with that in mind, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers went in together.
Right.
And so other groups like that.
I mean, Bruce had a pretty good career before the E Street Band.
Right. And
as like a folk guy, and
to a point. But the other thing is that the importance of them could not be understated. And so there was a lot of back and forth on that. So back in the day, when people were like, well, yeah, put Elvis in, but put his guitar player in. When they started doing that, they had a sidemen category. And so that was how Scotty Moore was Elvis's guitar player, and that's how he got in, and plenty of others like him. So then they switched that to musical excellence. And so just because they might not have sold as many records or been quite as popular or the same kind of influence, but somebody who is a fantastic player could then get in even if they didn't sell millions.
So the guys that got the Sidemen trophy, did they get the new better title?
I don't know what's written on the trophies. That is one thing I did not study up on. So I am not
I want the one that says excellence on there, please.
Yeah. So I don't know if that
changed
or if they had an opportunity to get that changed. That part I don't know. And then of course there's the performer category, which is the basic you're in. Now all of these are considered equal awards. So when you're in, you're in. You're not just in a little side category or whatever. And so Crystal is being our very helpful person. Here's who's nominated right now. The Black Crowes, Jeff Buckley. Hang on, getting there.
Jeff Buckley.
Easy. They're nominated. They're not in yet, so they have to get voted in.
Dude,
Mariah
if
Carey.
Mariah Carey beats Jeff, I'm sorry.
Okay, but she has an offer of want to, but hang on. And we're going to get to that, what makes Rock Hall of Fame, Rock Hall of Fame. We're not there yet. But I'm rattling all these off because she did provide them. Mariah Carey, Phil Collins, Melissa Etheridge, Lauryn Hill, Billy Idol, INXS, Iron Maiden, Joy Division, and New Order would go in together since they're pretty much the same band minus one. Sad, R.I.P. New Edition. Crystal says Oasis, Pink, Sade, Shakira, Luther Vandross, and Wu-Tang Clan. Thank you. You rattled every one of them off. They're somewhere on this list as well, and we will get to that.
Luther Vandross. That is sweet.
Well, and we've got a story to tell on that. Back up a little bit.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to read.
I know he's trying to read. He's like, and he doesn't. Those glasses aren't prescription.
No, I don't know where I am.
No, so he's like, where am I? I'm in a nutshell right now. So anyway, that covers what the groupings are. Like I said, Aretha was the first woman to come in on the second year of nominations in 1987. There's one person that's made it in 3 different times. Anybody know who that is? You know who that is?
Made it in 3 times?
He's been inducted 3 not just nominated, but has made it in as an inductee. Anybody?
No.
He's God. Clapton is God. So Eric Clapton made it in as a solo artist, as a member of Cream, and as a member of the Yardbirds. Now, the Yardbirds one is fun because the Yardbirds all kind of scattered out. And so that's why Jimmy Page is in twice, because he's in with Led Zeppelin. He's also in as a Yardbird. And so the same thing happened with Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young. And so because they all came, Buffalo Springfield ended up in, the Hollies ended up in. So all of these different bands that go supergroup, sometimes they can end up getting in twice, and sometimes they can end up getting in, as Eric Clapton did, a 3rd time. So people with successful solo careers that came after the group, Stevie Nicks, because she's in twice herself with Fleetwood Mac. Paul Simon and Garfunkel, Paul Simon. Tina Turner has made it in twice, once with the Icon Tina Turner Review and once as a solo. Peter Gabriel, same thing. He's in as Genesis. He's in as a solo, which is part of why people are talking about having Phil Collins join it. So yes, Crystal had it totally right. Eric Clapton, she wins the prize. She was the one that knew it and answered quickest.
Awesome.
And then Dave Grohl, he has an interesting place. However you feel about him right now, he's somewhere up on my back wall. He made it in twice, and both of his bands made it in on the first ballot. On their first year of eligibility, Nirvana made it in. Yeah. On their first eligibility, Foo Fighters made it in. Let that tell you whatever story is being told about those 1,000 people and what their tastes might be. So something to consider.
I mean, those bands were huge and monumental change.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And that's the thing, is like, what gets a band in? There's so much tangible, but also intangible as to what does that. And then my final one that I just kind of listed, there's like 28 total. They're in more than once. And one of them is Ozzy Osbourne. He's in for Black Sabbath. He's in for solo career. God rest him as well. So here's the big question. Crystal brought it up a little bit earlier. The genre question. Is it pop? Is it music? The committee are the ones, this 31 people, they're the ones that decide who the nominees are. So it's really up to them. And they take that paragraph into account, but they also take into the idea of what the concept, what the feel, what the idea of rock and roll is. Now, rock itself as a music has its own description. If you look it up on Google, if you look it up on Merriam-Webster, rock music, the definition of it includes amplified instruments. It includes having a backbeat. So usually it's heavy on the 4/4, even though there are other rhythms that go into that, but usually it's very heavy on the backbeat. It has a very raw, emotional vocal that goes with it. So it's not, fancy like opera or, bluesy and melismatic like R&B oftentimes is. But it is also a very blues-based structure. So that is what people, if you go to look it up, that's what rock is. Now, let's think about somebody like New Edition. The music is amplified. Does it have a backbeat? The vocals are raw and emotional. It is blues-based. So the connections are there. Mariah Carey, same thing. That's the trouble. And so calling rock and roll what it is, and Crystal had a great idea to call it a music hall of fame. Yeah, and that's where it gets tricky, because then if it's a music hall of fame, are we then going to put in Carreras, Beethoven, the three tenors, those people that we mentioned?
Yes.
Do we then need to put in Yo-Yo Ma
and others? Because we wouldn't have to do them all
that?
separate. 3 tenors. We got them all one just together.
Just do 3 tenors. They could get in twice, solo and as part of 3 tenors. See, there's options.
It's awesome. It's operatic.
So that's the thing. Is the truth of the matter is this
Big
is an
stop citing
extremely this is an extremely subjective concept. So we will argue about this forever till the cows come home. No one is ever going to agree on what the Rock Hall of Fame is, what it a lot of people have opinions on what it should be, but no one is ever going to come to a 100% everybody agrees what this really is. So
was the three tenors amplified music, or was it all?
They were in very large amphitheaters that did have, and that's the other thing is like if they have mics on the orchestra,
right?
What's again totally subjective. What's considered amplified? What about people that only ever played like Jim Croce? He didn't really play electric guitars. He played an acoustic guitar, but made it in. So again, fully subjective. And Crystal says they deserve recognition too, and she's laughing right along with us. So yeah,
it's like they're playing their house rules of the game. Like Monopoly, you go somewhere.
Yeah, it's their
There's
game.
things in there that aren't in the direction.
And they could just as easily pick up their ball and go home as anybody else.
They're like this year we're putting in violin as one category. Or something.
It's entirely possible. What's the violin girl's name? Not Ashley McIsaac. He's a violin player too, but he's Irish. The name will come to
Mother, that one?
No. She's amazing too. I'd love for her to go in, but again, it's pretty odd. So that's kind of where we stand on the whole genre thing. And the other side note, which members get in? How many people were members of KISS? Was it just the 4?
We're hurting my ears.
Oh, sorry. Was it just the 4 members of KISS? Because it wasn't.
There were so many people.
But that's the thing is, Peter, Criss, and Ace Frehley were not.
Yeah.
Like Bruce Kulick was in the band longer than either of the two of them. Yeah. So yes, Clive agrees with me. Electric violin rocks.
Totally.
Yes, and Inger's now singing "If I
wasn't
Could Save
denouncing
Time in a
violin.
Bottle." And Jim Croce also did "Bad Bad Leroy Brown." So I'm glad she mentioned those as well. So yeah, Shatter Me. What is her name? I can't think of her name. She did Shatter Me with Hailstorm, who I also love, and I cannot think of her name. I'll get it someday. Somebody will get it. I promise. I know. I should have written it all down. But which members get in? That's the question. And so there's been a lot of back and forth because, like, the members of Blondie, like 10 different people made it in. The members of Pearl Jam, did Brucey's get in? I don't think so. Did Matt Cameron get in? Yes, because that's the thing. It's really up to the company.
It's weird that he wouldn't get in. And Cruisen, too, the guy that was on Actual 10.
Yeah, so for Nirvana, did Chad Channing get in? Like,
who's that?
Just kidding.
Only the drummer that played on Bleach.
I know, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
So I'm here to educate as well as
Actually, that felt
entertain.
like I threw it to
you did. You
like,
lobbed me a softball. It's totally fine. Totally fine.
Yeah.
We will have a grunge episode, and I will give you my opinions on grunge.
Wait to get
It'll be a fun one. It'll be a whole lot of fun. But and that's the thing is like which groups get in, and then for example, Tom Petty when it didn't just go in solo, he was Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, so they got in as well. Stevie Ray Vaughan did not also just get in, so he got in Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble. Thank you, Crystal, for coming through. It's Lindsay Sterling. She's the one. So thank you. I appreciate you doing that for me. You come in clutch, and I appreciate it. So. But like I said, for 12 years, they were 9 years, they were having inductions with no place to enshrine them. And so the award ceremony has been held 28 times in New York, 4 times in LA, and 7 times in Cleveland. So basically what they've gotten to now is they're going back and forth. They go to Cleveland, then LA, then they go to Cleveland, then New York. And they just keep bouncing back and forth. So that way Cleveland gets a little bit of that advertisement dollar, travel dollar, tours dollar, but then New York and LA is easy for all the famous people that get inducted, and so so that's kind of how they've been doing it. Now we talk a little bit about those award ceremonies.
It's not like any of those famous people. It's the first time in Cleveland.
Oh yeah, and some of the they go on tour there, and so that was kind of one of the big things people talk about. How I've kicked off my tour in Cleveland, so let's put it in Cleveland, absolutely. And so one of the big things. If you only watch one video from an induction ceremony, you must watch Prince in 2004. They do a jam session, and they play While My Guitar Gently Weeps, because that was also George Harrison's solo induction.
Yep.
Because the Beatles went in 86.
Like
as
the
soon as they
were there, right?
Yes, and so Jeff Lynne, Tom Petty. everybody's on stage. It's a superstar lineup on stage, and we're like, yeah, we'll have so and so. We'll have Prince take a solo, then we'll have Clapton take a solo, and we'll have all these other people. Nope, no, because something dropped out of heaven and landed on Prince, and that solo came out of him. And he was going into the Hall of Fame as well. So they were honoring him going in. But like, I get goosebumps.
You have to watch the whole thing.
About it. No, and you have to. And here's the thing. He plays it. It's the most juicy. Like, other guitarists agree. All the ones on stage were like, nope.
Yeah, he kept going like, you want to go
and
back?
He was checking. And every single time they're like, nope, you're on fire. And it made him smile, and it was amazing. And my favorite, like the whole solo was fantastic. When they finally end the song, he throws the guitar up in the air, and you don't see it anymore.
It disappears.
He walks away. He throws it. He walks away.
Heaven.
He's gone. He's like Wrestler Friends. He's like Danhausen. Like, he just disappears.
Yes.
He disappears. The guitar goes up in the air. You never see it come back down again. I don't know who catches it. I don't know.
Somebody is up there in the rafters running around waiting to catch.
The angels that influenced him caught it and flew off to heaven with it. That's what I think happened. But it is one of the most amazing moments. And so, speaking of
we should see if we can find that guitar again. Like, did he use it again?
I don't know, but if anybody has it, I would hope it would end up at the Rock Hall, because that's the thing, is the museum portion of this is fantastic. So, and one of the cool things in performance was, one of my other favorites was Nirvana. When they went in, they had Chris and Dave, bass and drums, and they invited girls on stage to play. And it was such a thing that I would expect to have happened, to not only honor Nirvana, but to honor how they supported women coming up. The Riot Girl movement came up at the same time Nirvana did. And so the level of encouragement that they had. So Joan Jett sang, Sonic Youth. Oh my goodness. Kim Gordon from Sonic Youth, and St. Vincent, and I think Her was another one. And so, like, and it wasn't just any girls; it was girls who could play guitar.
Wasn't Frances Bean involved?
She was there. She was not. She was not performing on the stage.
Okay.
So again, repeat: only 9% of the inductees are women. Let's fix that. Let's get to work, you thousand crazies. Crystal said you could spend days in there trying to read everything, 100%, and we kind of did. Like, we were there from open to close. We had so much fun, but it's exhausting to go through. It's 6 floors. Like, you start in the lobby, you go downstairs to the basement, and you just keep going floor to floor to floor to floor to floor, and it's fantastic.
It sounds fantastic.
Oh,
like
it's
IKEA.
It is. Oh, it is. But like for rock and roll.
A maze, yes, for rock and roll.
So with the inductions, there were also some weird moments that happened. So I'm going to rattle off some really weird, messed up stories. So in 1988, as soon as they were eligible, the Beach Boys and the Beatles got in on the same year. Crystal says one of my favorite guitar players is Nancy Wilson, yet another one who made it in, one of the 9%, part of the 9%. So in 1988, the Beach Boys and the Beatles make it in. Paul McCartney doesn't make it because they're still disagreeing with the rest of the Beatles about all of the different lawsuits that were still going on at that point. One of the big ones being that Michael Jackson got the rights to their songs when they were trying to get them, and it didn't work out. They were not getting along. So Paul didn't show up, but other Beatles did, and Yoko did. So the Beach Boys' Mike Love, I have opinions about him. I'm just going to share with you what he did on that day. He brings Muhammad Ali as one of the people. Why? I don't know. Then he starts to brag about how they've been on tour, and they've been there for they've had 180 tour dates last year. I'd like to see the Mop Tops do that. Yes, he called the Beatles the Mop Tops. Like he's some old man, because he is. Anyway, and he rips on Paul McCartney for not being there. Diana Ross wasn't there because she was disagreeing with the rest of the Supremes. Mick Jagger, I want to see Mick Jagger. He thinks he can get up there and do Jumpin' Jack Flash. I'd like to see him do I Get Around. I'm like, no. I don't even like I Get Around. Sorry to those of you that are Beach Boys fans. They're great. They're fine. I love Brian Wilson. But
Mike Love is historically a jerk. Yeah.
Mike Love was unhinged. And what was funny is afterwards he apologized for it all and said he had not meditated that day, because he's a big believer in transcendental meditation. So apparently he didn't transcendentally meditate that day. So he did thoroughly apologize. Everything was fine after that. Not minutes later, Bob Dylan also got in his first year of eligibility, and he said, I want to thank Mike Love for not mentioning me in his speech. So, right, you can't write this. You can't make this up.
So smart.
You cannot make this up. And so initially, in these initial inductions, it used to be Paul Schaefer and the band from the Late Show.
Oh yeah.
And it would go crazy. Like, everybody had their egos, and like, I want to play longer and I want to play more. And so instead of having just the bands or some version of what the band selected come on stage, it was just a mishmash, and it was a disaster. And so it only happened a couple of years, and then finally they started doing what they do now, which is if the band is able and available to play, they will. If a version of the band is able to play, they will. Like with Blondie. She had Blondie is a band, but Debbie Harry kind of is the one running the show. Well, only about half of the current touring band of that is from the original. But all the original people were there and showed up, and they're like, can we just play a song with you? What's the big deal? Oh, my band's already up there. Oh, it's your band. And he said, oh, your band. I thought Blondie was being inducted tonight. Sorry.
Oh.
And they had just gotten freshly out of some courtroom drama, and the other guy said, it's nice to see everyone out of the courtroom. So it was tense, and they played some Blondie songs, and all was well, but not everybody in Blondie played Blondie.
They were there and didn't even get to play on stage?
Yeah, that's one of the big stories too. Jerry Garcia didn't show up because he thought it was
treated better at an open jam in town than that. Okay.
Yeah. So this is the drama. These are the stories that I wanted to tell because they're really that good. And so Bowie didn't show up for his. He just kind of didn't bother. CCR, John Fogerty, all of them were there, but John Fogerty played with like an all-star band behind him instead of So it can be pretty rough, right? Jerry Garcia.
This is the time to like really ramp up your
feuds. Jerry Garcia didn't show up because he thought it was too commercialized. Now, Grateful Dead was still together, but the rest of Grateful Dead showed up with a cardboard cutout of him because that's their sense of humor.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was a fun way to do that. The Ronettes. Now, Phil Spector had like one of the weirdest, most unhinged 20-minute long speeches that made no sense. Not but a couple of years later, he's in jail for murdering the ex-wife. It's a whole entire thing. But he was actually lobbying hard for the Ronettes to not get in. And so not days before he got sentenced at his hearing, the Ronettes made it in.
Sweet.
Yeah. So there is some redemption there. And, of course, Ronnie Spector was there to receive the award.
That guy's life just fell off a cliff altogether.
Oh, yeah. And so Chicago actually had way more curse words than I was expecting them to have. And they talked about, they were kind of hooring around. So I was like, okay, rock bands for everybody. And people always remember them as Hard to Say I'm Sorry and the ballads and all of that stuff. But apparently they were a rock band. Even Rob Thomas, who inducted them, said they're a rock band with horns. So that's how they got described. And then of course Madonna didn't feel like playing anything, performing, and so the Stooges went in at the same time, so they played a couple of her songs. Yeah,
sweet.
Yeah, I know that sounds twisted, and I need to go back and find and see that.
I hope there's video.
The Sex Pistols did not show up because, of course, they wouldn't show up. It was way too corporate. They sent an expletive-filled note and basically called and Jan Wenner himself read it.
Yes,
all the curse words, everything, and basically called them a pee stain.
But that's rock and roll.
It is so Sex
so
Pistols.
rock and roll to not show up.
And they're like, no, we're not accepting. We reject your offer. Blah blah blah. Whatever. They're still in. Nobody's picked up the award. So I hope it stays that way forever. Now, Steve Miller opened up the gate to a few things. He complained about the lack of women, not only voters but also in the hall. He also mentioned that you end up having to pay like $20,000 for a table. So if you want your family to come see you get in the Rock Hall, you got to pay a whole bunch of money. Oh, but it's for a good cause. It goes to charity. Well, the charities are kept under wraps too. They don't really talk about all the charities that go there. So Steve Miller's like, you need to do this, and that. And so, because Steve Miller is very well spoken. For him, being the guy that wrote the Joker, he has some very clear things to say. So feel free to look up that and listen to that. Dire Straits was one of the weirdest ones because the main guy, Mark Knopfler, and the drummer, none of them showed up. Everybody else did. They're like, yeah, show up. So there was no musician playing any of their songs. There was no one to induct them. They just announced Dire Straits goes into the Rock Hall of Fame. Here are the things. Here are the the trophies to the people that did show up, and the end.
Like no speech from them.
No, nothing. They didn't put a speech. Nobody did a speech about them. None of that. So Guns N' Roses, of course, being one of the big ones where Axl was out at the time doing Chinese Democracy. He was offended that all of those people that were in the Chinese Democracy era of Guns N' Roses didn't get awards as part of it. Because there came a point when Guns N' Roses became a rotating door after Slash and the main guys left. And what's great is there's actually a picture that has old drummer Steven Adler, who's had some severe health issues and can only do so much drumming, but they're on good terms. And Matt Sorum, the other big drummer guy who was there for the most part.
Right.
And they were all on stage together, everybody getting along, everybody doing well. One of my favorite acceptance speeches forever, and I can actually quote most of it to you, is from Alex Lifeson of Rush. Of course, Neil Peart says all of his stuff. Geddy Lee, I adore them. They say all amazing little 3-4 minute speeches. Alex Lifeson, the guitar player, comes up and says, blah, 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 blah,
yes.
blah, 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 blah. So like he's describing everything with blah blahs, but we understand him. And my favorite blah blah was blah 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 blah. So he blah blahs.
Yeah.
Tom Sawyer. And it's so funny because the only person that knew he was going to do that was his wife. The other members of the band were like, should we just like beat him over the head and make him go away? But then when they went back and watched it, they were in stitches. Oh, yeah. Absolute stitches, like the rest of us were. So that is a really big one. So a big part of what's about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is the people that aren't in. We could really sit and have an entire separate episode about that. But I'm just going to rattle off a bunch, and you're going to be offended at a bunch. Are you ready?
Well, do they have a quantity that they vote every...
Not necessarily. They used to kind of be like 5 and all
so
that.
So literally it's just them saying, not your time.
And Crystal, bands. Now I have to respond to her. Mana. I did the edit. All right, so be horrified. Ready? All right, just react, and I'm going to rattle them all off. Motorhead, Thin Lizzy, New York Dolls, Boston, Jethro Tull, Styx, Big Star, Alice in Chains, Motley Crue, Dick Dale, Meatloaf, REO Speedwagon, The Monkees, Cher is in but Sonny is not, Sting, Bryan Adams, Kansas, Bad Brains, Fugazi, B-52s, Smiths, Pixies, Sonic Youth, Alanis Morissette, Black Flag, Toto, Smashing Pumpkins, Fish, Weezer, Beck, Blink-182, Jane's Addiction, Garbage, No Doubt, Lenny Kravitz, Graham Parsons, John Prine, Glenn Campbell, Patsy Cline, Garth Brooks, Shania Twain, Chris Christopherson, Loretta Lynn, Connie Francis, Tom Jones, John Coltrane, Ella Fitzgerald, Roberta Flack, Barry White, The Commodores, Diana Ross as a solo, Tori Amos, Liz Phair, Bjork, De La Soul, Snoop Dogg, Daft Punk, Chic, Gorillaz, TLC, LaBelle, Alicia Keys, Weird Al Yankovic, and Slayer.
Oh my God.
Does it hurt your feelings to hear all those? It's
so
a lot.
Were they all nominated? And
some of them have been nominated over the years, but none of them are in. So we've already mentioned who got nominated this year. I'm really rooting for Iron Maiden, Black Crowes. I love Pink. I love INXS and Jeff Buckley. Those are kind of at the top of my list, but everybody else looks worthy and amazing. And the thing that a lot of people don't realize, people know Luther Vandross as being a blues, as an R&B guy. He sang backup for David Bowie. He was on tour with him, singing rock and roll backup vocals and sounding fantastic. Can you believe that? Like, that's how cool David Bowie is, right? Like, he can get all these super famous people to just come sing backup for him because his music was that good. And so, wherever you stand on that, feel free to chime in. If you've got favorites that are nominated, or you've got favorites that have been overlooked
I'd have to
heavily.
Look at that list again. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, that list.
That's the
Good
list.
God.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that's not even the whole list. Other people have argued others. That's just what I could fit on the page. And so, longtime holdouts. Kiss did not go in until 15 years after their eligibility. The big reason why is because Jan Wenner and them had a disagreement. If they were going to donate anything of theirs, they wanted to get paid for it. Jan Wenner, to have it donated to the museum, wanted it donated or on lend, free of charge. They never could agree for a very long time. People who had other Kiss memorabilia, you would see that come in. Eventually, they came to agreement. Eventually, 15 years after, it happened. Paul McCartney finally went in as a solo artist about 10 years after he could have. But his daughter, the designer Stella McCartney, just had a white t-shirt that said, "About effing time." And effing was spelled out, the bad word. Yes. And so that was a big deal for them. For me, my big deal, my golden grail was MC5. I wanted them to go in. They finally went in as a musical influence 2024. I think. And or no, just maybe it was just last year. Whatever it was, I was screaming with joy. And I hope that happens for your favorites
40,
as well.
50 years late.
Yes, exactly. And then Cyndi Lauper was a long time one, and I was very glad to see her go in. I was over the moon when that happened. Deep Purple went 23 years without getting in. Joe Cocker, one of your favorites, went a very long time before he finally got in. Now, I have 11 minutes to talk to you about the museum experience. Again, Steve Miller's kind of right. It's a cash grab. Like, they're using it to profit, to make money. But I enjoy going to the museum for the artifacts. The artifacts make me happy. To just be in the same room, Elvis Presley's motorcycle, Jimi Hendrix's outfit that he wore for Isle of Wight. Like, you feel a vibe. There's a Shinto kind of vibration that's still happening in so many of these things. I about died the first year that I went in, and Jeff Buckley's Paisley Pink guitar was there, with lyrics and with a letter that he had written to a fan about how disconnected he felt to his father. But he still loved him and listened to his music, and they didn't have enough time. His father died before they could really bond. And so he's like, I can only go by the stories you tell me about my dad. Because he has so little stories of his own to tell. And I'm standing there, it's 2002, and I'm just like, who's mine? I'm okay, all right. And like, the powerful way that, like, Otis Redding's wreckage of his plane, like, it just makes your heart stand still, because you realize that he died at such way too young, far too soon. And those kind of things are everywhere. And then you have silly stuff, and then you have fun stuff. And so there's 7 total levels, 6 of which we can access. And there's like this huge mezzanine out front. You can have all kinds of like
what's on the 7th level you can't access?
I think that it's just offices and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's
So
not like VIP.
no. So the lobby is wide
outs.
open, very open air front kind of space. It's glass, and it's wide open, and giant things like Moby and Gwen Stefani, when they did the song Southside, they had like big giant signs behind them. They were out there. The faces from the cover of Pink Floyd's Division Bell, those are up there in a really cool spot. The Trabants from U2's Zoo TV tour, hanging from the ceiling all over the place. Amazing, fantastic. For a while, all you could take pictures of was in the lobby. There are certain sections of the place that you cannot take photographs. It
would steal their souls.
Flash photography. The people that have agreed to lend them have said you can borrow them, but no. In the reality, it's more they just don't want flash damage.
Yeah.
They don't want the people that are lending the items don't want pictures taken. Sometimes it's really that simple. And so when I went the first time all by myself, there was a John Lennon exhibition, and it was supposed to celebrate his 60th birthday, because he was born in 1940. He died in 1980 at the age of 40. And it had been 20 years since his death. But I went there in 2002. It was such a successful exhibit, it lasted for 2 years.
Yeah, okay.
And so it was a beautiful exhibit. It was amazing. It had those lighthearted moments with like his cartoons and his writings and all of that kind of stuff. And it had some really heavy stuff. His blood-stained glasses were in a glass case. Yeah.
Oh.
His clothing. Now I didn't see his clothing. But Yoko Ono provided so much of this.
Yeah.
The bed that they slept in when they first moved into the Dakota and didn't have hardly anything. It was 2 church pews with a mattress box spring like laid across it. Yeah, it was that simple, and that was like, this is where we lived for a while to get started. And she kept it, and it ended up in the museum because, of course, she is an avant-garde artist, so she gets like art and you know how to do a museum. So they had a bag, and it was also enclosed in glass, and it had a story, a little paragraph of a story written by Yoko herself. This was the bag that she was given from the hospital after he had died. These were his belongings that were taken from his body. She describes that it's his clothes, jewelry, whatever it was.
That is so heavy.
It is. It really is. And she said, I couldn't believe that someone so great could be reduced to this little brown bag. And again, think what you want about Yoko Ono. Act like she broke up the Beatles. She didn't. The Beatles broke up the Beatles. Her music is weird, 100%. It's not for everyone. It's not.
But her music did not make John Lennon bad.
No, 100%. But she said it in such a beautiful way that I couldn't believe that this man of greatness that the world knew and loved was reduced to this brown bag. And again, I'm just crying. So then, at the end of this John Lennon exhibit, there's a
reduced down a brown bag.
I know. It's heavy, right? All right, so lighten it back up again. So one of the last things you see in this John Lennon exhibit is a table with a phone on it. No nothing, no way to dial with this phone. It just, people can call into it. A chair and a note. Again, from Yoko. No, it's not from Yoko. It just says, if the phone rings, answer the phone and talk to Yoko. And I don't know, every other day or so, she would call that number and talk to whoever picked up between 10 and 5 when the museum was open. And you have no idea how many of us would just kind of walk by and be like, I wonder if the phone's going to ring. Is the phone going to ring?
Are you sure it was her, though?
Yes.
It wasn't like AI Yoko?
No, this is Yoko's avant-garde art at work. It is weird, but it was really freaking cool, right?
Hang her on the phone.
So
I'll give you a call.
The second year, I'm like, it'll be a couple years. So at that point, I made very quick best friends with Mikey, and we're out like running around visiting our friend in Chicago. And it's like, let's go again, because there's a U2 exhibit. So I went to the U2 exhibit, and of course I got liner notes. And what's really cool is this is just a museum magazine. So, and it just kind of has induction information. It shows you, like, look, here's Avril Lavigne's outfit from the Complicated video. Here's Shakira's Whenever, Wherever. Here's those faces that I was telling you about that they got from Pink Floyd. From that Vision Bell. Yep. Yeah. So of course I just grabbed one of the books. And then at that point...
So it's a statue? Like, how big is that statue?
They're huge. They're like 2 stories. They're almost 2 stories tall.
Like the Easter Island ones?
Oh, yeah, they're huge. So now, when I worked at FYE, and hopefully I didn't break anything. There we go. When I worked at FYE, we had an FYE that was the gift shop at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So the first year I went there, I was able to get some discounts. The second year, the lady refused to give me a discount. I'm like, well, I got one last year. She got so mad at me being grubby about it, she called my boss, and I got a call from the boss as I'm driving home from Ohio to Missouri. Like, it was weird, man. I could talk more details about it, but she was mean.
Karen.
But the opposite direction, because apparently I was just too mean to her, and so she had to go tattle on me. But anyway, whenever people would buy stuff at the Rock Hall, they could return it at any FYE. And so this was a return shirt that was not the right size that I bought back in 2002, 2003. And it's got a listing of all of the inductees from 86 until 2003. So there you have it. So this one is a bit too small for me, but I'm on a health journey. We'll see if you know me, I'll squeeze into a schmedium all day. I'm the girl from Bender. Are you kidding me? And then when we went back, right? Okay. And then when we get back in 2017 for the group one that I told about, and you can barely see it because it's starting to fade. Dang it, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Why can't you print on stuff that's going to hang in there? But I got this one when Cheap Trick went in. And it's one of my favorite shirts. I've been wanting a Cheap Trick shirt for a very long time. And I'm like,
so
with
cool.
with the Dodge stuff, right? And what's great is that, of course, Brother Mikey knows how to read this kanji. So apparently it's Chepatriku, which comes out as Cheap Trick. So I'm like, good job. Thank you. I appreciate that. So that was one of the big ones. I am that dork that kept one of the bracelets from being a member, because when we showed up as a family, it was cheaper for us to get a membership again. So Stephen got the membership, and we kept it for 2 years. I got this shirt, and he got a red shirt, which I'm like super jelly of, but it's fine. And then over the years, of course, we got our shot glasses that have like the house that Rock built. You probably can't see them terribly well, but of course, one of the big logo things was "Long Live Rock." So this was the tag that was on my. This was the tag, that was on my. That was on my Cheap Trick one. And then, of course, we've got our lovely little shot glass as well with the logos. I was given this book by a friend of mine, John Queen. Thank you very much. And it has just a whole bunch of random facts. Just a really cool, like you said, it on a coffee table book. Look, the Purple Haze, Jesus Saves. Yeah, that's what he titled Purple Haze back in the day. Called it Purple Haze, Jesus Saves.
No way.
And then ended up calling it just Purple Haze. I saw that lyric under glass, of course, but I saw that actual piece
Purple
of paper.
Haze,
right?
Jesus Saves.
And of course that. And then while I was working at School of Rock, we had a deal with Hal Leonard. Hal Leonard sold a lot of their stuff too. So I have a lovely little thing that I can set on any desk. And then when Stephen got his membership, of course, he got himself a little green drink. holder. So I think that was everything that I have. Oh, of course. And then when you go there, you've got your exhibit guide. One of my favorite exhibits, I'm so glad that it's there. Before I have to make an announcement, because I know we only have 1 minute left. We're at the top of the hour. Those of you that have been chit-chatting, thank you so much, all of you guys. And so they had a whole bunch of different ones. And so I'll take pictures of this, and we'll take a look at it throughout the week. But my favorite has to have been, I think it's called Right Here, Right Now, maybe? Where'd it go?
Van Halen?
No, I'll find it. Oh, no, there it is. The Video Killed the Radio Star multimedia exhibit. MTV paired with them years ago, and it is like this amazing, like, little 10-minute, like, you just stand in there, and there's video screens everywhere you look. Flat screens, big screens, old-fashioned looking ones, and they show you everything. They show you Elvis on TV. They show you the Beatles. They take you all the way to the current day, and it's so powerful. And they have music, of course, behind it, and they talk about all the different ways that video killed radio star, how MTV got its start, how it's important to have a visual and not just the music. Is that
still there? Is it?
It is.
Okay.
100% is. So we are at the top of the hour. Like I said, I'll take pictures as best I can. So I do have to make sure that I make an announcement. What is our next week's item, you might ask? Nobody has, I haven't really told too many people about it, but it is going to be breakfast cereals and their mascots. We're going to have some fun with that. So I always have breakfast cereal here at the house. I have some old boxes that are kicking around as well. We'll talk about the origins of it.
Maybe make sure I didn't throw away 3
stuff.
boxes when I was done eating.
Well, certain ones I do want to save because they're my favorites.
They were really
but we're going to talk about that. Thank you guys for chiming in. I really appreciate you. I've already gone past the top of the hour. But thanks again, guys. Thanks again to Evan, my eventual Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee.
Even posthumous is cool.
Sure, yeah, that works out. So, but thanks again, guys, and we will see you next time when we get to talk about cereals and we get to talk about their mascots, Frankenberry, Blueberry.